Okay, welcome to Planet Geography. Today we're dealing with coastal management. Just take a second to appreciate just how beautiful my coastal landscape actually is. Okay, so we need to talk about coastal management. Now, the main reason we do coastal management is to protect areas of economic activity. These could be urban areas, these could be industrial areas, they could be agricultural areas, areas of intense tourism potentially. But either way, they are creating money for the local economy, taxes being created, and so the government believes they should be protected. So the idea is to try and hold the coastline here. Well, that should therefore, if you can make the link, teach us something about these waves. Well, they must be destructive waves, meaning the backwash is stronger than the swash. They remove sediment, they don't add it. Okay, so that's kind of the outline of why this is happening. Areas of economic activity and destructive waves. When that happens, humans will respond. And they will respond by either using hard engineering or soft engineering. So here's a definition of both of these that I'm going to flash up. Pause it if you want to read it in more detail. But really, hard engineering is just about man-made materials. Okay, so if it's got concrete, metal, and even wood, then you can consider it hard engineering. Soft engineering is much more about natural processes and working with the environment instead of against it, but it aims to achieve the same thing. Now, this is a revision channel, so there are 10, 12 different ways we do coastal management. We're going to focus on 4. If you have 4, 2 hard engineering and 2 soft engineering, if you have those for your GCSEs, you're in a pretty good place. In fact, you're in a very good place. So what we're going to look at is 4 examples of coastal management. Now, the 2 hard ones are groins, which links to longshore drift, sea walls, which are expensive but highly effective. Those are 2 hard engineerings. And then we have beach nourishment, which I'll talk about what that is in a second. And then we also have managed retreat. This is somebody protesting. Okay, and we'll go into why that is in a second. So now we're going to jump into small sections. Each section will tackle one of these 4, okay? Okay, so let's look at groins. Now with groins, what you're trying to do here is stop longshore drift. So you're trying to stop transportation, which is a bit funny because really what you're trying to stop is erosion. But if you can stop transportation, moving sediment from A to B, what you do is you create a natural buffer or boundary, which is the beach, and the beach operates as your natural barrier, okay? So how does it work? Well, we know, well, if you don't, check out my video on it, that we have swash at an angle and we have backwash perpendicular, okay? And that's happening in a cycle all down our beach. Okay, swash comes in, then backwash comes out. Okay, cool, but how does that link to our coastal management? What you do is you build these groins perpendicular at a right angle to the beach, and what they do is they trap the sediment. Now, most of you will have been on some sort of fieldwork trip, and you've probably seen the groins and seen that how literally one side of the groin has got 2 feet between the stones and the sand and the groin, and the other side has about 8 feet. You can literally step on there and jump off there. And that is because the sediment is being trapped, okay? And by trapping it, you hold it in place and allows the beach to absorb the energy from the waves. And that's it with longshore drift. So what you really need to know, perpendicular or at a right angle to the coastline, it traps sediment and breaks up the process of longshore drift and maintains the beach, and that is your boundary, okay? So that is the first of our hard engineering techniques. Now we're going to look at seawalls. Okay, so seawalls, in many ways they're very, very simple. You are just building out of concrete, and that is why it's hard engineering, a seawall, again, parallel to, not perpendicular, it's the opposite this time, parallel to the coastline that you want to protect. Now, these are very, very effective. They are expensive. I think you're talking over £1,000 per meter. Yeah, so they're very expensive, but they also kind of last 100 years. So they're very, very good at what they do. The downside is they are quite ugly. You know, if you're a hotel owner or a tourist, you'd probably much rather go to a natural beach than one covered in concrete. So, you know, there is a bit of an argument, and stakeholders, tourist, first local, fishermen, might have differing opinions. But what you're essentially doing, and I'm going to draw a cross profile down here, so a cross section. Yep. What you're doing is you have your beach, you build your wall, and then you have your village. And what happens is those destructive waves that we talked about, they will come up the beach, swash and backwash and all of this. And the energy that they carry, that comes from the wind, that comes from the sun, it will just simply crash into the seawall. The seawall will absorb that energy, and the coastline will be protected. Very, very good at what they do. The negatives is that if you stop erosion, and this is very good, you know, as long as you understand this, you're in a good place. But if you stop erosion here, well, then there's going to be no transportation, and what you'll see is there will be an increase in erosion down the coastline. Okay, so somebody living here is going to be very upset because there's more and more erosion, because the beach will be diminished, because the sand is not being replaced. There's no erosion. If there's no erosion, there's no transportation. If there's no transportation, there's no deposition. Okay, so it is seen as being quite disruptive to the environment, but the positives are it's incredibly effective. It's a long-term solution. The downside is it's very expensive and is pretty unnatural. Okay, that is a seawall. Again, I find it one of the simpler ones. All of these four are the ones I would write about in the exam because they are the easiest to write about and the easiest to get the marks. Okay, we've done the hard engineering. Now let's do the two soft engineering, so let's jump into that. Okay, beach nourishment is our first example of soft engineering. So again, reminding you of that definition, using natural materials. The material we're going to use is sand. Remember, a beach is a natural barrier to the destructive waves that we have talked about. Okay, nourishment means to kind of really add to in this sense. I personally think it's a terrible idea. It's a definition of unsustainable. But what you do is you transport, so again, here's a lorry being filled with sand, okay? Hope you can see. It's being filled with sand. What's going to happen is you will transport it in the opposite direction of longshore drift, okay? And you will dump it. Then longshore drift will take place. Here's your swash, and here's your backwash. And you're back to square one. So this is the reason I don't love it, is that you have to spend all of this energy, often in the form of fossil fuels, to get sand and take it all the way back to A. Longshore drift will transport it back to B. And you're constantly doing the dog chasing its tail. Okay? The advantage of this is it's a natural solution, and it allows the beach to kind of stay beautiful, okay? So if I'm a tourist and I come to this area with my camera, it still looks beautiful, you know? So if I've got a hotel here, this is a 5-star hotel, I'm happy. The beach looks natural, the tourists are happy. The people that live here are happy because the beach remains that natural defense. Who's not happy? For me, the taxpayer. Constantly having to pay out for beach nourishment, okay? A short-term solution. That is beach nourishment. It's quite simple. You need to know longshore drift, transporting sediment, and the beach as a natural buffer. Okay? Quite a nice one to write about, if I'm honest. Okay, let's do the last one, which is managed retreat. It's the easiest one, and I would definitely encourage you to write about it, okay? So let's look at that. Okay, the last of our coastal management techniques. This is called managed retreat. Now, retreat means to go backwards, okay? It's a word that often comes up when you're learning about waterfalls or wave cut platforms. It means to go backwards. Managed retreat is controversial. This person living on the coastline is protesting. And this plaque says, "Save my house." I promise you that's what it says, okay? Save my home, because the local authorities, in this example, have decided to choose managed retreat, which means they are not going to do anything. Yep, they are just going to let nature take its course. They're going to let those destructive waves slowly remove sediment with their strong backwash and their weak swash. And eventually the beach will be eroded. Over time, this beach will slowly start to disappear until the waves are attacking the coastline, okay? And eventually these homes will be eroded into the sea. Now, why would you do that? Well, one, this is the most natural thing you can do. It's the least disruptive to the environment. And fundamentally, it's the cheapest. If there's only 2 houses here, then they're not creating much economic activity. It's cheaper actually to just give these people that live here, you give them some sort of bursary, if you will, some sort of compensation. Maybe the government steps in and gives them 100,000. Because in reality, as soon as the government chooses managed retreat, these homes are now worth 0. Who's going to buy a house that's going to be eroded into the ocean in 5 years? So you give these people some money. You say, look, we're not going to spend the money to protect it. Go and buy yourself a new house. Okay? And that is really the kind of main attraction. It's a very cheap response from the government. It doesn't harm the environment. It allows longshore drift, erosion, transportation, and deposition to take place. What are the negatives? Well, I guess the negatives are, these people have lost their homes, they've lost their communities, they've lost their friendship groups. It has a big social impact on people, okay? But apart from that, much of what this is positive. And this is why the government, unless it's a big urban area like Brighton or Blackpool, unless it's an area of high economic activity, this is now kind of what the British government is pursuing, okay? And that's it. We call this managed retreat. The government lets nature take its course. Erosion takes place, and compensation is often given to humans that are affected by the government's decision. I like this one. I would definitely write about it if it asked me about soft engineering. Okay? I hope this has helped. What we'll do now is we'll find an exam question on coastal management, and I'll show you how I would approach it. So let's jump into that now. An exam question of us applying coastal management techniques into our writing. So here is our question. As always, we need to bug it. Box the command word, which is examine. It's not a very common exam word, but for me, you can substitute it for explain, okay? So check out my exam masterclass videos on explain if you need some support with that. We then see that advantages and disadvantages must be mentioned, so it must be balanced. And for me, this means that the connective we're going to need is however, because that allows us to talk about the advantages before bringing in the disadvantages. And it's about coastal defences. So this is the image. I'm going to flash it up quickly, pause it and have a look in detail as to what you think the coastal defences are. I'm going to break it down here. I personally don't love this image. My eyesight might be going, but the only ones I'm sure I can see are groins. The rest are kind of up to interpretation. There's some gabions there maybe, but to me that looks like beach nourishment, but I can't really be sure, so I'm a bit nervous about writing that in the exam. But the ones I'm sure are groins. There's potentially a seawall back here as well. Your eyesight might be better than mine. I don't love this image because it's not so clear. So let's check the mark scheme and see what we could have written. If we look at the mark scheme, we have got jumping out is seawalls, rock groins. I think this is some rock armor as well, and sediment may be being used to add sediment. Terrible sentence, but that's beach nourishment. So I think you're in the clear if you write about beach nourishment and groins, seawalls as well. Okay, so remember I said there are lots like rock armor, but if you remember 4, you should be in the clear. There is some AO3 and AO4. That's basically your point, and then your second is your application. So your use of connectors really gets you the AO4 marks. So what I'm going to say is this is your structure. Your point developed 3 times, and here at the bottom, however, to provide you with that disadvantage. Okay, I'm going to write one, and I'm going to encourage you to finish the essay, write the second paragraph or the second 3 sentences, and post it in the comment section, and then I'll be able to give you some feedback if I can find the time, which I should be able to. So let's get into my version. I did it on beach nourishment because I like talking about it. I'm confident in that. So one type of coastal defense in the image is beach nourishment. This is my point. Everything else that I write is going to be linked to beach nourishment because sediment is being added to the beach by the digger. So I'm showing that I'm using the resource to add the information in. Okay, keyword being sediment. So let's then apply it. Let's get those AO4 marks for our application. As a result, the sediment is being removed by the destructive waves, and longshore drift is being replaced. Okay, so I'm using my understanding of the process, destructive waves, longshore drift, replaced. Okay, well that's all positive, isn't it? I'm showing that there is a natural process that is being kind of replaced by humans, and that's all great. So let's look at the however. However, this is unsustainable. Nice tier 2 word. Unsustainable means a pattern of behavior that can't be continued. It's unsustainable. And as it will need to be continuously replenished. We talked about in the video of the dog chasing its tail. This is what I kind of tend to think of as a metaphor for beach nourishment. You know, how long are you going to do this for? Are you going to do this forever? Okay. For me, that is enough to get 4 marks. And then if I write a second piece similar to this using the same connectives, I reckon I can get myself 8 out of 8. Okay, so have a go, post it in the comment section, and then see if you can get 100%. Like and subscribe for future videos. Check out the masterclass series on exam technique, and good luck in those GCSEs in the final few weeks.